We Unitarian Universalists speak proudly of and often refer to our 7 principles. Most of us probably don't know how we got them. Both the Unitarians and the Universalists worked on developing statements, but the efforts nearly derailed the 1961 merger. It took some strong deliberation and compromise to come up with an early version. The principles and purposes that replaced the original wording were adopted nearly unanimously in 1984. Much of the credit for that effort goes to UU women, working diligently to eliminate sexist language from our hymns and documents. In a UU Continental Congress on Women and Religion, one workshop was called The UUA Principles. Do they affirm us as women? The answer was a resounding no. And also, Edward Frost wrote that the principles failed to indicate a respect for the wholeness of life and for the earth. A study committee recommended drafting the 7 principles and reference to 5 living traditions that UUs share. The committee's draft was circulated and debated by all congregations in 1983 before the final draft was submitted and approved by a wide margin at the 1984 General Assembly. The required second vote in 1985 received only 1 dissenting vote. There have been no real changes since the 1980s in either the principles or the sources. The last source was added later. One major change was proposed last month at the 2017 General Assembly in New Orleans. The delegates voted overwhelmingly to encourage a UUA study commission to consider an 8th principle proposed by Black Lives of UU. As proposed, it states, quote, "We, the member congregations of the Unitarian Universalist Association, covenant to affirm and promote journeying towards spiritual wholeness by building a diverse, multicultural, beloved community by our actions that accountably dismantle racism and other oppressions in ourselves and our institutions." Obviously, this rather convoluted wording can and probably will be improved by the study commission. You can and should read more about the process at blacklivesuu.com as our congregation decides whether or not to support the work of building a diverse, multicultural UU community here in Atlanta. This morning, we're going to look at each of our 7 principles. So we have them. So what? If we are to make these principles the basis of our mission, we must relate them to our everyday lives as individuals and as a congregation. That broad charge encompasses most, if not all, of social justice. This morning, 7 of our lay ministers are going to speak to us about how each principle does so. Our hope is that all of us will think of at least one way to apply each principle in our daily lives.